Hey YouTube, Godhammer227 here with another knife review. This time I'm reviewing the Cold Steel True Flight Thrower. Let me just give you some specs on this thing. It is 12 inches overall, so it's a foot in length. It's 5 millimeters thick at the back, so it's a pretty thick knife. It's really beefy. 9.7 ounces, so it is rather heavy, especially for a throwing knife. And it's made of 1055 carbon steel. And as you can see, mine is absolutely beat to hell. I mean, it is destroyed. However, this is where the review gets bad. To start off, it's a symmetrical blade. Like, it's the same on both sides. So it makes it really easy for throwing. And it's really nice for throwing. However, the tip. My tip broke off in a... It was a very wet tree. Like, it was very, very soft wood, and it had just rained when I started throwing this, and the tip snapped off in probably the first 10 throws. And the throws were, I'm decently good at throwing knives, so they weren't terrible throws. It just did not hold up its performance for the tip. I think that's because it got really thin at the point. The point was needle sharp. I mean, it was incredibly pointy, but for holding that tip, it was just really, really thin to be a thrower. The blade. The blade itself is very sharp. There are, some dings and chips in mine if you can see them. But yeah, mine is all chipped up. That's just from me using it. It's incredibly good for chopping. I will give it that. Instead of maybe being a throwing knife, I would take the same design, throw like a crossguard on it, and make it a survival knife. Or just like a large Bowie knife, because it is amazing at chopping, at doing anything but throwing, really. The throwing is pretty good. It's just the size of it makes it kind of hard to manage. It's more difficult than some of the, say, 6-inch throwing knives that are about half the size. But if it must be a thrower and it must be this big, it's good for its size. I just think that the size is something, if they were going to make a throwing knife out of this, should have been reduced. That's just my opinion. I don't know. But I think it is rather large to be a throwing knife. As I said before, it's a great survival knife. I've chopped through 2x4s of pressure treated wood with this knife, and it held up just fine while chopping. It went through the wood perfectly. I mean, it was incredible how easy it was to chop through the pressure treated wood, but I think it's a better survival knife than it is a thrower. That's just my opinion. Another thing I want to point out, the finish on this knife, not very sturdy, not very, well, it's not very durable, because you see it started to come off at the point, and the blade itself, my blade, has stained like you wouldn't believe. It looks like there's dirt on it. I'm not sure how well you can see that. My camera's kind of sucky. But it looks like there's dirt on it. And that's not dirt. That is like staining and rusting on the blade. And it's, it's just not a very durable, long-lasting knife. In fact, right here, if you can see it. No, I guess you can't see it. There's a Cold Steel logo, and it says China underneath it. So it's made in China. From an American company, being that Cold Steel is an American company based in California, I think that, it's probably best to put a little more time into making sure the designs for something like this is correct, because as a throwing knife, I don't see it being the best. It was fun while I was using it, certainly a recreational knife. If I had to use this as a survival knife, I would simply throw a crossguard on here if I was redesigning it all over again. Put a crossguard, put a pommel, maybe a little bigger pommel, and it would be a perfect survival knife for chopping wood and doing anything like that. It does come with this sheath. It's made of fabric. It's a hard fabric, like it doesn't bend much, and it does fit down in there. It's got a plastic bit on the end to protect the tip that's riveted on there. It's got this elastic strap that buttons it in place, and as you can see, it's starting to fray at the ends and fall apart. So not the most durable sheath either. It does have a nice belt loop, but you know, it leaves something to be desired. So that's the sheath, and I think that they really could have done a better job with it. Because of its weight, like I still throw this thing every now and again. Because of the weight, it will stick in a tree even without the tip. But I, I liked that tip. It was a really nice tip, and the only problem was it was way too thin to be thrown by something this big, this bulky, this heavy. So I think that the design was a little flawed. They should change it a little bit, just tweak the few little things that I've mentioned, and I think it would be a great knife. Honestly, not one of the better knives I own. All in all, it's a good knife for fun. I got this for about $25 at Bass Pro Shop. You can get it online at coldsteel.com. I think it's a little more expensive there, but I get a lot of my knives at Bass Pro Shop. It isn't the best knife. If you're looking to use this, for actual purposes, say to use it in competition throwing, because I know there are a few throwing knife competitions around where I live. It wouldn't be your best bet. I wouldn't put this in the competition. It's just not gonna hold up. But if you are using this for fun to practice throwing knives of all sorts and sizes, I think it's a good knife. If you're looking for something to chop wood with, it's a heavy knife, and it's got a nice edge to it, even if it doesn't hold up. So there you have my review on the Cold Steel True Flight Thrower. Sorry, my camera's been kind of messed up. I don't know what's wrong with it. I got to take a look at it. But it's a good knife for fun. I wouldn't, put my life at stake with it, but it's a fun knife. If you're looking for something cheap that you'll have a lot of fun with for like a weekend, if you're gonna use it heavily a weekend. But if you're gonna save it, and it's just a nice collection piece. I mean, it's a big knife. I like big knives. Uh, Definitely something to take a look at. That's the review. I hope y'all enjoyed. Like, subscribe, and I'll see y'all later.